Hello and welcome back to the Leader of the Pack podcast. I am your friend and confidant Marcelo, and I will be here with you as we share some wisdom, insight, and laughter in today's world. Today is another amazing episode where I get the opportunity to chat with Natan a little bit more about life skills. We had an opportunity in our last episode to touch base a little bit about leadership and a little bit about what it's like to be that man in the house that leads from a space of honor and integrity, to lead from a place of love. So you had brought something up that was really great that I wanted to touch on this week. Your priority system. You know, for those that didn't catch it, we talked a little bit about there's a difference between yelling at your kids and telling them, do this, do that, almost as a dictator, and leading from example and saying, is this something that's really important to me? You know, the difference of the house is on fire yelling versus, I want you to clean up your toys for the umpteenth time. So Natan, first, it's good to have you back.
Thank you. Good to be back.
So awesome. So let's talk a little bit about that. We talked a little bit about priority systems and your belief system. So Natan, what does it take to create a priority system that can be foundational as a leader in your home? Let's talk a little bit about your priority system and your belief system and how you got there.
Thank you, Marcelo.
You're welcome, Natan.
I love Marcelo's voice, guys. He was born to be a podcaster. Apart from his good looks, that voice is just everything.
Everything I've done in my life is for this podcast. And this moment,
Amen.
In a world of utter desperation.
Awesome. So, what does it take for a man to find his priorities? I'm going to throw something out there that I hope you all fall over on. Death.
Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Death?
Yeah.
I'm going to find my priority in life through death?
Yeah, I truly believe it. I watch society, and I think that, and I know this may get into a real good one because, you Marcelo, I think you're quite a love democracy and your rights, and freedom of speech and all that type of stuff. Which I do too, but I see that the more light life is, the more choice men have, the less seriously they take life. I think that people who have seen or experienced life and death have far less difficulty deciding what their priorities are. I'll give you an example. Quite a few years ago, I opened up an online store. That online store is not everyone agrees with, but I don't care because I do definitely believe that I'm doing the right thing and I have the blessing of my wife to do so. But it's a whole nother subject, but I opened up an online store that sells adult toys. The store is called BeBetterTogether.com, which you can understand from it. It's not about self-pleasure, but it's about helping husbands and wives being intimate with each other. So I opened up this store, and you can imagine it was kind of the talk of the town. You know, the rabbi opens up a sex toy store.
Scandalous.
What? I was actually interviewed by Bloomberg News. People said to me, "How much did you pay to get on Bloomberg?" I'm like, "I didn't pay. They just came and interviewed me for 6 hours." It was so interesting. Like, the rabbi holds a dildo. Right? So anyway, it was very scandalous. It was very out there. And I understand some people may, if you're challenged by that, I challenge you to message me and let's have a chat about it so that you can understand the whole reasoning behind it. Anyway, so a few months after I was in Bloomberg News and all of these different like European magazines and all that type of stuff, we were going back to South Africa, which is where my wife is from. And just about 2 years before, I was a rabbi in the community in South Africa. And South African Jews are known to talk and love talking about what their rabbis do and don't do. And I remember saying to my wife, it was just after the summer that we had a war in Israel. And a war, it was so intense that there were times that my wife and I lay on top of our children with missiles flying over our heads. Okay, it was so close. A missile literally landed outside my children's school. Okay, that's how life and death it was. And I remember saying to my wife when we were going to South Africa, aren't you worried about like what everyone's going to say about us? And, you know, do you want to stay kind of out of town so, you know, so that we don't have to face all of the talk and stuff? She says to me, Natan, we've just faced life and death. I couldn't give a hoot what people have to say about us. And so it was so powerful for me because it was a real wake-up call. Like, yeah, that's the truth. Like, what do I care if someone doesn't like the fact that I sell a vibrator to someone who hasn't had an orgasm in their whole, you know, in their whole marriage, whatever it is? Like, it doesn't matter. I almost died lying on top of my children, right? I was almost stabbed. I've almost been blown up. Like, when we go wherever we go after life, right? What's God really going to ask us? Those of us that believe in God, those of us that don't, what does the universe really want from us? Or what are we going to ask ourselves? Like, and that's why I say life and death. Once someone has really been pushed, that either their freedom is taken away, right? In a dictatorship or in, you know, I know guys who were in communist Russia who sat in jail for being who they believed they needed to be because of their priority system. They literally sat in jail because they had decided this is who I am and I will not change. My family was persecuted and sent out of Spain because they would not convert from Judaism, right? So when someone hasn't, and I'm not saying, therefore I have all the answers, right? all I'm saying is I'm challenging you, men. Close your eyes for a moment, okay? Imagine, and I've been held up by gunpoint for my mother-in-law's car, right? Imagine having a gun to your head and someone saying to you, Marcelo, what are the 3 priorities right now in your life that you would be willing to die for? The rest, give up on all of them. And I imagine that the vast majority of things that we believe are priorities in our life would melt away like ice under the sun. When we are pushed that our freedom would be taken away, when we are pushed that our life would be taken away, God forbid, there are only a few things, a few priorities that we would actually stand strong on. The rest of them, we would cry that we found important during our life. So that's what I mean by life and death.
Wow. Wow. So that's a stretch for some men.
Mm-hmm.
That's a stretch for some men to imagine being in a place where you're at gunshot. What 3 priorities matter to you the most right now?
Yep.
Wow.
And yeah, of course thank God it's a stretch.
Yeah.
Right? Thank God it's a stretch, and the majority of us don't live in it day and night or every year or every month or every however many years, whatever it is. But that doesn't mean that, you know, there are so many guided meditations online about going on a sail ship or being stuck on a deserted island with yourself. Well, go on a bit of a scary, imaginatory journey. Imagine being put in a jail cell and think what your priorities are then. Imagine a gun at your head if you're in a emotional mental space to be able to do that. Take yourself on a journey.
Yeah.
Imagine it.
So let's bring that back. So let's just bring that back then. So we're on that journey. We have our 3 priorities. How do we extrapolate that into a belief system and how we operate at home, how we operate as husbands and fathers? Because ultimately, while that's an amazing experience to go through, how do I correlate that into my life as a leader at home?
Brilliant. I mean, like anything that's important to us, we remind ourselves of it, right? Why do men that believe in God pray every day? Prayer is, at least what I've been taught, prayer is not, although it's misunderstood in many ways, prayer is not about asking God for what you want. Prayer is about connecting to what our priority system is. Prayer is about coming in line with God's priority systems, right? That's why, I mean, we pray, as Jews, we pray 3 times a day. Muslims pray 5 times a day. What's the average Christian man praying?
Once, twice, 3 times. It depends. We pray at least 5 times a day. We pray for each meal. And then I pray in the morning during my devotional time. And then again at night. Actually, I pray when I tuck my kids into bed, and then I pray with my wife before we go to bed. So I guess I pray at least 6 times a day.
There you go.
Right? So I'm better than a Jew, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, man,
mark the time. I am better than a Jew because I prayed more than him.
I have never said that a Jew is ever any better than anyone else. Mark my words on that, bro. We just have more weight on our shoulders. That's all.
There you go, chosen people.
So yeah, how do we make that part of who we are? How do we make those priorities? We remind ourselves of it. Like, think about is New Year, like, the majority of the world celebrate New Year's Eve by getting drunk and kissing people, right?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Right? Or birthdays, get drunk and eat as much cake as you can so that you have to go and take off the weight the days afterwards or whatever. Hold on a second. A birthday is the day I was born. Birthday is the day that the world changed because you or I started to exist in it. A birthday is a day where we recalibrate on what our priorities are, right? We have to create times in our life that we remind ourselves of what those priorities are. Is it every night when we go to bed and I know when I go and I lock my doors at night, right? I know that I'm reminding myself what my priorities are. When I check my gun, I know what my priorities are. When I kiss my wife goodnight, it's a reminder of what my priorities are. My grandmother used to say, never go to bed angry because you may not wake up, right? It's a pretty morbid way of looking at it, but the essence is, if and when you get to lie down next to that person that you have promised to spend your life with, no matter what the argument was today, no matter what the disagreement will be tomorrow, you are under that same roof, or you are lying next to them, right? That's a priority check, man.
Yeah.
That's a darn priority check. You had kids sleeping under your roof. That's a priority check, right? The problem is when men have and it's not only men, but we're talking to, when anybody, although this podcast really is for anyone, right? When anybody has their head in the sand or somewhere else, and they are only focused on themselves, it's very easy to forget what our priorities are, right? When we are so narcissistic that we are thinking about ourselves all the time and don't open our eyes to see what's going on around us, or that our child just came to kiss us good morning, or whatever it is, well then, yeah, we're going to forget what our priorities are. So, maybe it's every so often we think about that life and death. But the truth is we're blessed with those reminders every day of our life.
Yes.
Another example is surround yourself with people that either have the same priorities as you or have a priority that they love you so much, they care for you so much, they want to help you keep your priorities, right? I remember when I was a teacher in a school, the teachers were telling a whole lot of the boys, like, hey, don't go to this camp, because at that camp you're going to do bad things, right? And I hate that type of education. I can't stand that when you don't show belief in the students. And I tried to change the voice in their heads. And I said to them, instead of believing that you're going to do the wrong thing, being on a camp with boys and girls together, how about you gang together as a group of boys? They were like 14, 15 years old. I said, if you're worried that you're going to do the wrong thing in whatever that may be, going to smoke, getting drunk, being with the girls, like whatever that may be, right? Priorities. Sit down with that group of boys before and say, gents, my priorities are, I do not want to do X, Y, Z. I give you permission to go as far as break my nose if you see me going to do those things. I want you to be my conscience when you see me, if you see me going to do those wrong things. So the other answer is to surround ourselves with people that can help us remind us about what those priorities are, right? Guys within Leader of the Pack, a lot of us share a lot of priorities, and some of us have very different priorities. But if that's your priority, my priority is your brother, as our brother Sean says, I am my brother's keeper.
Yeah.
So whether it's my priority or not, doesn't matter. My priority is to be your keeper. So, right, we've got guys, including you and I, who have chats on the side that are not a public thing within Leader of the Pack, that we remind each other almost every day of what our priorities are. And we remind each other, hey, dude, how are you going? Like, you can speak truth to me here. Let me know, and I'm going to kick you in the butt if you're going offline with those priorities.
Yeah. Well, and I think that really goes in line with one of our pillars of protecting, because I am doing my part, not only as a leader, but as a protector, making sure that I'm connecting with other guys, opening up and being vulnerable, because that is part of leadership. That is part of standing up. There's also understanding that it is okay to be vulnerable,
Yep.
I truly enjoy those opportunities where I get to not only mentor to other men, but also be vulnerable enough to other men to say, hey, this is where I'm struggling in. Can you keep me accountable?
Yep.
So
100%,
powerful.
man.
So powerful.
100%. And if we keep our guard up because we're so scared of judgment and all that type of stuff, then it's our own fault and we just don't ever get to grow.
Yeah.
Because
so good.
We're really good at lying to ourselves, right? So
Yeah.
to have another brother, help us out and remind us of those priorities.
Yeah, that's a big takeaway. Like looking at this now, going, if I had a gun to my head, where do my priorities really stand? So I really appreciate that insight. I didn't think of it that way. And I always felt like my priorities lie in how I'm a better Christian or how I'm a better husband. But really, to get down to the skin and bones of it, to the meat and bones of it, it really is, what are a couple of the priorities in my life that when I had a gun to my head really mattered? So, guys, I really hope what Natan shared with us today can really shift your dynamic. It really is. It's so interesting being in the States, the different level of appreciation that we have for life compared to somebody who's traveled the world and who has been in some serious war, Now, granted, Natan, you're not out there running around Israel with a machine gun, but
No.
when we were there in 2019, we heard the sirens. You know, when we were there in 2019, we heard of missile attacks in the Gaza Strip,
Yep.
just a short way from where we were. You know, to think about you throwing your body over your children's body to protect them, you know, and your wife saying, Natan, we just we're in a life or death situation. That's a priority. What I sell online to people is not a priority, right?
Yep.
These are all amazing nuggets to walk away with. So
it really is always a joy having a conversation with Natan. I thoroughly enjoy growing and learning from him and with him. Did you learn something new today? I sure did. Be sure to join us in the conversation on Facebook. You can find us at Leader of the Pack. You can also be a part of our members only group. You can get more information from our Leader of the Pack page on Facebook. There's links in the description below, and be sure to share this with a friend. Our viewership and our listenership keeps growing because of members like you. Leadership starts with you. What are you going to do to crush this week? Stand up, lead, and protect. God bless, and we'll see you soon. Be safe.